Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Front End Lover. My name is Hemant Dhanore. Today we are going to see about React.js, and in this video we will see how we can do a React.js setup, what prerequisite we require to do a React.js setup, and what are the functional component and how we can create a functional component. So let's see what prerequisite we required for the React.js setup. For doing a React.js setup, we required Node.js and the Visual Studio Code. We can use any of the editor. Now I am using Visual Studio Code here, but you can use any of these. Like you can use Visual Studio Code, you can use Atom, you can use Notepad, Notepad++, any of the editor you can use. I am using Visual Studio Code, and you need to install a latest version of Node.js. Sometime we require a specific version of Node.js, then you can install a specific version of Node.js. Now let's start with our coding. Before starting React.js setup, we need to install a Node.js. So for installing a Node.js, go to nodejs.dev and go to a download tab, and in the download navigation you will see this Windows installer, Mac installer here. You can install whatever you want, and you can download the Visual Studio Code from here. Okay, I have installed both Node.js and the Visual Studio Code in my laptop. So I am opening the Visual Studio Code here. So in the Visual Studio Code, I have created one folder with the name of React.js. You can just open your folder from here. I am opening here React.js, and I am opening this folder here React.js. So in this folder, I will have to create my React app. So for creating a React app, firstly, you need to open a terminal. Go to terminal, create a new terminal here. So once you click on new terminal, you will see this terminal here. I'm going to clear this by using clear command. Now we have to install React app. Okay, so how we can install that? Firstly, we need to run npm install -g create React app. By using this command, the create React app will install in our laptop globally. If you are adding -g here, then it is installing globally. If you are not adding -g, then you are installing this create React app only specific to this React.js folder. Okay, so once you run this command, whenever in future you will create a multiple React app, then you don't need to run this command every time. So once we run this command, it will take few time to install the React app in our system. Now if you see, it's installed the React app. So now we'll have to create a React apps. How we can create? We can add npx command here. Npx create React app, and we will give our React application name. Let's say first React app. I'm giving a application name to first React app. Okay, if you press enter, it will start creating each and every file for the React app. Now if you see, it created the folder with the first React app. In this, it created package.json first. Now it will install a packages in the first React app folder. So it started installing the React DOM and React script with the CRA template. If you see here, now these are the some packages we required to run the React application. We will see how this folder will create here and what are the folder inside that node module folder. So now once this setup is done, we will see a node module folder will create inside the first React app. Now if you see, it is created the node module folder here. In this node module folder, all of the module which required to run the React app, those are getting installed here. We will see what are the module we are going to use in the React app to run the React application. So now it's still installing some of the packages which required. Now it started creating some of the files here. In the first React tab, it will create a public and src folder. So src folder is for the React tab, this src folder is for the React tab, and this public folder have the HTML and the global files that we are going to install into the index.html. We will see each and every file once the setup is done. Now our setup is done. Let's go to our folder. If you see here, we have two commands that we require to do to run our application. Let's add cd first React tab, then run npm start. It will start our React application and it will automatically render to the browser and it will load the site into the localhost 3000. So until our site is loading, we will see here. If you see here, it is showing a starting the development server. It's starting the development server. Then now it started with this localhost 3000 and this is the IP of your system that you can access through the devices as well. So now once your application is run, you will see this default React tab whenever you install a React. Okay, so now let's see what are the files are here in the React tab. So first we will go into the public folder. So when our application is run, this index.html get rendered on the page. So these are the few links we have for the fav icon that is coming into the browser. This fav icon is coming. Then we have some meta tags for the one is for the responsive and viewport we have. Then we have a default theme color. Then we have meta tag for the description, that meta description we have. Then we have logo link here, and here we have our title. This title is coming here. Let's modify this title. First React app. If you update this one, this will update the page here. Okay, now how our React application get loaded into the page? If you see here this div id root, this div id root we have a blank, but if we see this on the page, let's inspect and see. In the browser, if you see in the div id root we have this complete HTML. So this HTML where from it is coming? This complete HTML is coming from the src folder. So this src folder we are loading into this div id root. So this root we are getting into the src folder. Let's go to src folder. We have this index.js. So our React tab is initializing from here. Now if we see, we have imported React here from the React package, and then we imported React DOM from the React DOM package. We have created one index CSS, like that index CSS have some CSS file. We have app.component. This is the component we have, this app component here. So this is the functional app component we have included into the index.js. Now, how it is going to render? We have a method render DOM method. So sorry, render DOM package to render with the render method. So this render method is doing whatever container we are adding here, that container going to load into the this particular root element. So we are getting the ID of this index.html, this root, and we are passing complete component whatever we have written and whatever components we have created we can add here, and we can pass this to root. And our app.js file, if we see this complete HTML we have here, that is showing on the browser. So this complete HTML from the app, so this div it loading from this app.js. So now what is in the app.js? So in the app.js we have imported one logo for the adding a logo onto the page, and we have separate CSS for app.js. Why we required a separate CSS for a component? So reason behind that, whenever the app.js will load, then only the CSS will load. Otherwise, the CSS will not going to load. So that is the benefit, that we can create a separate CSS on based on the component. Let's say I have a header component, then I can add a header CSS. whenever our header will load, then only the header.css will load on the page. Okay, now here we have created function component with the name of app. Inside that we have a return method. So this is required to return whatever HTML we want to return. Okay, and we required always inside the return we required a one wrapper. Let's say I am adding here one more div. Okay, if we add two divs in a return, then it will throw an error. So if we want to add two multiple sections inside the return, then we need a one wrapper. Let's say I'm adding one div one more, and I will have to wrap this complete HTML inside the one wrapper. So here I have added one wrapper. This complete wrapper we have with the two different wrapper. Okay, so by doing this we can add a multiple sections, but yeah, if we want to add multiple section, we need a wrapper here. So we can add a div here, otherwise we can add a fragment. So what is fragment? We can add a fragment like this. Okay, if we add like this, now we are seeing here we have a one blank div. Sample, I am adding a sample text here. So if we see on the browser now, we will see two div inside the root ID, that is simple text with the and the app. We have this one. Okay, now let's see add a div here. So if you add a div here, it will show blank div onto the browser. Now inside the root we have a blank div, and then we have a two wrappers. Okay, so now this div is unnecessarily added here. So if we don't want to show that unnecessarily div created, so it will impact our HTML code, right? It is increasing the lines of HTML code. So avoiding this, we can add a React fragment. So React fragment we can add like this one, or we can specify here React dot fragment. By using this as well we can do. So this React fragment also not going to show onto the browser. If we see now, even the div ID root we have, then the fragment is not visible here. But we need that wrapper with the fragment that to add a multiple HTML section into the return method. Okay, let me add a wrapper with the I have added one fragment here. Okay. Now let's create a component. Before creating component, let's go to package.json, what the package.json and what are there in the package.json. In the package.json, first thing is the name of your application. When you create your React app, the whatever name you have given, that name will be visible here into the package.json name. The version is first version. Whenever you create it, it will show 0.1.0. So this version is required to maintaining a version of our React. So package.json file. Let me open package.json. So this is in the if we are changing a code multiple time, we can maintain a version here. Let's say I am modifying something. Now I am creating header footer. Then I can modify it to 1.1, then 1.2, then 1.3. I can modify these versions, and we can commit this package.json in the GitHub. Now we have some dependencies here. So these dependencies we have for the first dependency we have for the test cases. This JS DOM we required to run a test cases. Then we have a testing library React, then testing library user event. These three packages we required to run our test cases in the React application. Then we have a React package imported here, then React DOM, React script. So React DOM and React we required to utilize the React packages, React methods from the packages of React and React DOM. And we required a React script to run the React. So if you see this React script here, so this React script executing all of this script inside this script object we have written. Inside that we have a start, build, test, and eject. These are four classes we have inside the script, and these are we are running into the command. We run npm start command. If you want to build our application, we can run the npm build command. If we want to run test cases, we can run a npm run test command. If you want to remove your or you want to stop your application, you can use npm run eject. So these are the commands few. How we can add one few more packages, and we will see how the packages will add here and how we can see how our package.json will get updated. Now let's see how we can create a component. In the src folder, I'll create one folder name components. So in the components, I'll create one file. Let's say add a header.js. I have added header.js here. So in the header.js, we'll have to import first React from React package. We will create a functional component here. For that, I'll add a arrow function const header. I am giving the header to a component name. We can add an arrow function here. Once we created that, we have to write a return method inside that. So in the return, we can add our HTML. Let's add one wrapper here. And we have to export this functional component if you want to use that functional component in the another component. Let me export this. Export default header. Now what we will do, we can add a logo in the header file, and we will add a search in the header. So how we can do, we can add a wrapper here, header. In the header, I will add one div with the class name. Okay, let's add one image directly for the logo. I'll add image src, and we can pass a src here, and we can give alt for, let's say I'm giving logo, or we can give first React app. If our logo will not be there, then this text will show on the browser. Okay, now we have created this logo here, and we want to import this logo.svg. How we can do? If we see app.js, in the app.js we have imported this logo here. So similar to this, we need to do in the header.js. We can import logo here from the path we need to pass here. Let's add a path. I'm passing the path for logo. Logo is in the src folder. Okay, so let's see here. We have here only logo dot svg. So now we can use this logo.svg here. Let me pass width to logo. I want to show 80 pixel of width of logo. Now we have created this header with the logo, and now we need to import this header into the app.js. How we can do that? So let's go to app.js, import header here. So we are created one header class functional component, and we have imported that here. Now we need to import that here. How we can import? We can add header here. So by using this keyword, we can import our header component here. Now let's go to browser and see. If you see, our logo is coming here in the header. Now if you see, this header is coming, and the header we have this image with the 80 pixel of width that we are showing here. In this way, we can create a functional component. So let's see, add one more component here. We can add a footer as well. I'll add a footer.js. The footer.js, let's import React from React package and create a functional component with the, we have created a arrow function here, and we'll give the footer name here. So inside this we have a return. So in the return we can add one wrapper. I'll add a footer tag here, and we need to export the functional component. export default and the component name. Now if you see in the header and footer both component, I have keep this header H capital first character and the footer F capital first character. So there are some standard in the React that we can, whenever we are defining any functional component, define that functional component with this first character should be in the capital. So now let's add some here, add text here, copyright, all rights reserved. So now we have created this footer component. We need to import that into the app.js. So let's import that into the app.js. How we can import? We can use a import here with the, in that we can pass a footer here, and from this location we have imported this footer. Now we need to add that into the page. How we can add that? We can add a footer here so that this footer will show into the browser. Now if you go to browser and you can scroll down, you will see this footer at the bottom at the rate copyright all right reserved. This is showing in the bottom, and we are showing this header, and other part we are showing in the middle part. Now let's move this middle part into the different component. How we can move that? Let's create one more component. Inside that I create a content.js, and inside that let's import first React, then create component name content, and we can add a return here. We can give any component name. I'm giving a return here and add one div here. Okay, and we can export default content. We need to export the component that we have written. Now just copy this complete container from here and replace that into the content.js. Okay, I have replaced that into the content.js. Now if you see in the app.js, we are getting one warning here. Logo is defined but never used. So if you see in the top, we have this logo imported here, but we have not used into the our React app now in this current component. So whenever you are adding or importing any of the component or any of the images or any of the CSS file, then we need to use that into the component. Otherwise it will show a warning in the console here and the browser console as well. So now let's remove this from here. Now this warning is removed from here. Let's go to content.js and add logo here. So now let's import our logo here, and we can change the path of logo so that our logo will visible. Now second thing what we need to do is we need to import that content component here. So let's import that content folder here and add that content component here. So now if you see your app.js is so clean, we created small component for header, content and footer, and we moved that into the one separate component. So now in the app.js we have header, content and footer, and we have this content component here, then footer, and then this is header. Okay, now we go, if we go to a browser, we will see similar HTML header, then app, then we have a footer. Okay, but all these three we have divided into the three separate component, and we have imported that into the app.js. Hope you like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel to get the more videos and more information about the front end. Thank you everyone.